Dear viewers, I welcome all of you to this episode of Janadesh program, in which we shall discuss on the importance of election in contrast to the way the general public understands and the politicians approach it. Election is extremely important in life of any democratic nation. Election determines the kind of society we live in and the kind of society we should like to live. As the saying goes, people get the kind of government they deserve. Today we have in our studios young personalities. We have Mr. Theja, who is a social activist. We have David Sangdam, who is the president of the ENPO unit here in Kohima. And we have Neichute Doulo, who is a social entrepreneur. I welcome all of you to the discussion.
Thank you.
You know, election is going on now, and we are proud of professing ourselves as good people. But the question is now, despite our considering ourselves as upright people, and yet we are forced to talk about clean election. Now, what could be the cause of this disharmony of being one side righteous people, and on the other hand, forcing ourselves to bring about something which is to be clean in our society? I would like to first get the comments from Theja.
Yes, I should agree with you that we are good people, no doubt. But to me, we are very complacent.
Very true.
We are also irresponsible. When it comes to our responsibility towards the nation and in the democratic process, I should say we should be more active than what we are today. I should also say that the democracy in the context of Nagaland is in peril. We have seen that democracy is not attractive anymore. People are looking away from this process of democracy because there is no attractiveness, there's lack of governance, and no political party implement the manifesto which they have promised to the people. Once they get elected, they go their own way. And that is the reason why people feel that it is irrelevant whether I vote or I don't vote. It hardly matters. At the end, the elected members will go their own way.
It's very true. One of the primary reasons why our people are so irresponsible, or at least feeling to be irresponsible, is due to the spirit of complacency. I think that is one very important point which our people have to continuously fight against our complacent nature. David, what would be your comment?
Actually, we Nagas, we are not that careful as we are supposed to be as an intellectual or as a social activist or whatever profession we are in. Because as far as the upcoming Lok Sabha election in the states is concerned, maybe I feel since we have got only one MP, single MP, whose presence is not felt in the parliament. Maybe in the past also was like that. Even if for the upcoming Lok Sabha election also, so people are not bothered about, because we have one MP who goes alone, then his performance or her performance in the past, that has also not have any impact maybe on the general public. The thought of the Nagas generally have not been fulfilled or something like that maybe. So people said, the MP, I say, we are not bothered. That's why whether we are good citizens or not, maybe because of the lack of less representative, we are not bothered about this coming Lok Sabha election.
Anyway, of course, we'll be discussing on that issue. However, whatever election, whether for one seat or for all the 60 seats, I think the most primary need is the people's attitude towards these affairs. I think mainly the attitude has to be tackled first.
Yeah, I agree that the clean election process has been one of the good things that have happened in Nagaland, and we have our shares of flaws. But I would say, as an evolving society, Nagas have not fared too bad. And we have caught on very well with the multi-party system that came about after Nagaland got statehood. For the democratic setup that Naga society had before the 1963 statehood was very different from the multi-party system that India has. And so during the last 2014 general election in India, more than 450 parties contested for 543 seats. So in Nagaland today, we are going to have 4 people contesting for 1 seat. And I believe that the clean election process that we are aspiring to be is going to help us how to understand better the democratic process that we have. So I think it is a good move. We are doing well, but there is always room to do better. And so I want this clean election process to continue to help us produce a better process of electing our leaders effectively.
You know, it is very true. Whether it is a success or not a success yet, we should appreciate the church for having come out with this movement of clean election.
Yes.
Now, there was someone who was just suggesting that the first step towards clean election could be cleaning up our electoral roll. We still have dead people voting.
Yes.
We have coast people voting.
Very
And
sad,
so,
but that's true.
Exactly. So the first thing is to clean up the electoral roll. And any other suggestion that you could bring in to bring about the electoral reform or with regard to clean election? One we have just said is cleaning up the electoral roll. The second one and the third, what could you think of?
You see, when we talk about clean election, a lot of time people want to look at money and alcohol, but those are only symptoms to me. The more deeper issues are like what you stated, the bogus votes that we have. And because of the bogus votes, it's producing the tendency for political parties to capture votes. Sadly, our statistics, population statistics is very flawed in the sense that official record of 2011 census shows that we have 19,80,000 people in Nagaland. But whereas when we actually go to the villages, this is not the case. There are many instances where the voting right is even more than the 2011 official census. So I fully agree that this needs to be cleaned up. But one of the things that the church can help all of us, which is going to be very tough, but is to ensure one person, one vote, rather than maybe emphasizing so much of our energy on money or alcohol, which we need and we appreciate the church. But then if we can insist that one man, one vote, and there is no bogus vote casting, we will help the process clean up to a great extent.
Mr. Doulo, you have pointed out a very important point, that is money or alcohol, buying or selling of votes happens to be only the symptom.
Yes.
So could it be that if we change the electoral campaign system from door to door to just a stage program of the candidates, could that be really another good effort of trying to bring about a clean election?
I think here the church can also play some proactive role. We talk about righteousness, righteous living, and also righteous participation. And here, I think there has to be accountability. And how can I play with my role, electoral role? How can I even imagine to have multiple names in the electoral role if I want to live a righteous life? I think this is where the church can also preach about. At the same time, I also feel that while this responsibility is required from the citizens, we need accountability on the part of the elected members. What promise they have made, what manifesto they have declared in public domain, they should live up to that. When the mandate is given to them, the mandate should be carried till the end of the next election.
Exactly. I think the church has great responsibility, being the moral house. They have to really help the congregation to live up to the values of life and then becoming accountable citizens so that the society progresses. And so talking about clean election, we have focused on three main things. The first is that the electoral roll must be cleansed. And the second is, I think instead of the house-to-house campaign, if we can insist on the platform system, where the expenditure also will come down.
Oh, yes.
And I think if we can insist on these parameters, then we can truly have a clean election. Now, having said that, now election in our state, on the other hand, appears to be more of gambling. That the candidates come out with as much money as possible to buy off the voters, and at the end of the day, after election is over, then what we have is we have a degraded citizens who have sold themselves their rights, and on the other hand, we have candidates, whether winning or losing, we leave them bankrupt. So now I think this is a very serious issue because of the reason that a bankrupt legislator, I don't think will have enough time to think of a better policy and better governance when he has himself to look into his livelihood.
Yeah, in the last general election that we saw in Nagaland 2018, with the clean election campaign, we saw many good positive changes. One of the positive changes that I saw was the personal conviction of some of the people who were involved with the clean election. I witnessed one person who said that he used to have 9 votes in his family, whereas his conviction made him to go to the election office and delete the 4 bogus votes that he had, and he had only 5 votes in his family. I thought that is powerful Christian testimony. Also, I have seen that because the church advised not to have political camps in the villages, it must have led to a huge reduction of expenses. Whereas, like in any processes, there is also some weaknesses. We saw the NBCC failing in some front. We saw some people trying to hijack the NBCC clean election for selfish gains. But by and large, that process probably has helped our election process to be much less extravagant than it could have been. But you are right. When the election process happens, a lot of money is being spent, which the government of India, government of Nagaland is also trying their best to curtail. We need to find out how to curtail this, because at the end of the day, we really have issues where the population, the citizens are left. The result is degraded citizenry that you mentioned, because instead of voting for issues or for development, we tend to look for immediate benefit. A lot of citizenry could become like that. And sometimes it's sad to see that people who get elected are actually sitting on a very large heap of debts accrued because of the election processes. So I'm grateful and I appreciate what the NBCC has started with clean election campaign. We need to strengthen it,
Exactly.
encourage people not to demand election expenditures for their benefits, but we also at the same time need to educate even our political players that they don't need to gamble their whole economic resources just to get votes. There must be better ways to get votes than spending monetary resources.
In addition to our colleagues' point, I also would like to add few points. In fact, now this awareness has become little more frequent now. In the past, during election, people were not that aware, but the election department is doing its best. Now, even today, for example, the Doordarshan is taking part for cleansing the election system, and even in radio, all India radio stations, local dialects also, they are trying to give education to the public. Even in the churches also, clean election campaign, which has been initiated by the NPCC, it's a good step. Now, relating to that clean election issue, I want to point out one village. Under Kifit district, there is one small village that is hardly around 40 to 50 households, around 200 votes. The intellectuals, the church, the councils, and then the officers or few students leaders, they gathered together. Then they declared the village as a clean election village. So there in the village, no political candidate was allowed to enter, no camp, no nothing. Each individual, they had a very 2-3 days fasting prayer program, and then they were allowed to go for any person of their choice. So that's how election took place. In a true Christian spirit, the election was held. No hangama, no misunderstanding. That was a good achievement. And in fact, when our Union Minister Neichute came to our Kifit district, the governor's award was also bestowed to that village, clean election village. Of all the elections that has been held in Nagaland, that was the only village which genuinely, I personally went to that election before polling there. I had to go and cover up for the radio recording. It went to the local program. Now, other villages are saying, that small village also could do. We big village also should do. You see, I hope
Exactly.
in the next coming election,
Very good.
maybe in the assembly election, I have a feeling maybe some other villages also will emulate the same examples. So hopefully, I think in addition to the church prayers, programs and all these things, maybe slowly if Nagas can also adapt, maybe phase by phase, I hope
Yes.
one day maybe the true best democratic system of election may be applied in our Naga society.
I think that is really a great beginning.
Yes.
A great beginning.
Let me add something on that. Yes, as far as awareness is concerned, I think the Election Commission is also doing well. The media campaign also is successful. The presentation and appealing the voters through election icons and all this are really working. Awareness is working well. The clean election process is also, the church is also doing well to a certain extent. Everything is on progress. Here, the little negative expression which I want to make is the political parties, when choosing a candidate, instead of choosing the person on the capability, on the qualification, sincerity, and their commitment, dedication, we tend to look for people who can afford and also having economic resource and with a financial background.
Yeah.
I think these are more important than the quality in the person. I think this also have to change
Yes.
if we really want to pick up the right person. And then, yes, there has to be a common platform giving ample opportunity to the voters to listen to the candidates. And then the right to choose should be made very loud and clear. And then only I think this process will bear fruit.
It's quite true. You know, earlier David also has already pointed out. Now I would like to get your minds with regard to the Lok Sabha election. As you well pointed out, nobody, Nagaland does not take any seriousness in Lok Sabha. Whereas Lok Sabha, maybe we are having only one seat, and yet the policies which are to be laid in the parliament, which are made by the parliament, are made by the Lok Sabha representatives. So we may have only one. Now this time round, there was a very controversial legislation, especially for us, in regard to the CAB, Citizenship Amendment Bill. So now, even though we have only one, if he or she can make representation of what the feeling of the people is, I think it could have been a wise gesture.
Very
but
true.
Unfortunately,
Very true.
since we take the Lok Sabha election very lightly, it is actually almost like a political crime on our part not to take the Lok Sabha election seriously. On this, I would like to comment on.
Yeah, I think I can come on that.
Sure, please.
One seat or two seat, it hardly matters. It's a matter of principle. And then we are sending a person to the House of People to represent us and to get the pulse of the House and come back and brief the people on what issue we should be alive. I think that is where whether your one vote may matter, may not matter in the parliament. But you should make your presence felt by the members. And on that, on the principle, on the issue, one have to represent the common voice of the people, very loud and clear. In voting, you know that you are just one person. But in raising your voice, you can convince the House if the issue is genuine. So I think we should not fail on our part. But here we find that it is just a nominal representation of the people, just to make our presence, attendance in the parliament, rather than trying to project the voice, the view, the issues of the people. So I think whoever is elected should also have seriousness to represent, and he also should be accountable to the people.
Exactly.
Instead of abstaining from the parliament, one should be there to listen and voice the concern of the people. I think that is what is important.
No, I was just wondering at the opinion that only those states who have more representatives can make more noise, and those less cannot make any noise. I think this is, to my mind, not correct. In a sense, even those states who are having 30, 40, all of them are not making noise. It is one representative who has got an understanding of his people makes the noise. So in that respect, we may have only one, but ours could be making more noise if we send someone who can really stand up and voice the concern of the constituency here.
As far as Nagaland state is concerned, sorry, you see, we have seen in the past that the ruling dispensation, the state government who is in the power, normally have the upper hand. So even if the opposition parties, whether he is good or bad, whether he has got the capacity or not, whether his political party's manifesto is good or not, we don't look to that particular manifestos of the party, but we look at the person who is representing a ruling party. So in Nagaland context, Lok Sabha election as such, that is also one factor where people say, ruling kani chitibo hoi jabo. That is, we take it easily like that now.
Very true.
Not knowing that one person is very important, who represents whole Naga issue in the parliament, but the general public even the intellectual, so-called intellectuals, cream society of the Nagas, they also feel ruling common, they will win. That is the concept. So we all have the tendency to say that Lok Sabha election to Ikunai. So I think it is a wrong conception that has spread among the Naga society.
It's very true.
Yeah. No, I fully agree that we have only one lone voice in the Lok Sabha and also in Rajya Sabha. Therefore, whoever is our representative to the parliament becomes so important. They are our political ambassadors. And therefore, whoever represents us cannot be complacent. And I think Nagaland as a whole must wake up to the reality that the MP's seat is not to give to for political accommodations. And it is not a seat to be treated really lightly. The Naga public also have to wake up to this reality. Also the ruling party, the opposition party have to realize that we need somebody there as our political ambassador. This, unfortunately, in the past, we have not been seeing so much of it. I hope we see that in the future. But like my friend said, we need to wake up to the reality that this is a huge challenge. And in fact, every year, an MP gets 5 crore rupees as his constituency development. It's not really much if we think of a state, but this also can go in a lot to develop the state, maybe in priority sectors or in a focused manner. We want to see more of that to happen with our MPs. So I want to wish the best for all the 4 candidates who are standing to be the next MP. We hope that tomorrow they will actually serve to the expectation as our political ambassadors. But the Naga public definitely needs to wake up. We cannot be complacent when there is MP election. We also need to tell our representatives that our future squarely depends on them when important issues come up for the public.
You know, you have pointed out a very important issue that is till today. By the advancement of years, the quota of development funds are also being increased. Now, as of now, as you have pointed out, per MP, yearly developmental quota is 5 crores. Now, the biggest problem is we do not see anything as of now. Maybe because of lack of use of media, or media is not really making an effort to go and find out what he has done in his 1 year or 3 years or first term in regard to the development of the people. So I think it is also a bounden duty of the media people to see that they dig out things to ventilate to the public through newspapers, through various media, so that people are aware of what our MP is doing for the state of Nagaland. I think that is a very important issue which people also must take it seriously. Now, to a lighter note, many political parties are now saying that, and even the general public, that we need young politicians. And so there are political parties who are already making a big sound that they have inducted many youths as candidates. Now, is it really the need of the society, of the development of the state or the country by the youth or by the old people? Can we define developmental energy from age? What would you say?
To me, the age factor may not matter much, but active participation is required. And as we have discussed earlier about the MP-led fund, I have not seen the MPs consulting the departments or publics about the projects which are to be implemented. So there has to be a guideline, and hopefully they are following the guidelines. And a certain amount of transparency is required. MP left fund doesn't mean that it belongs to you and it should be in your pocket. There should be a transparency. So the project should be worked out with the people from the concerned departments. I think that should also work. And as MP, one single MP is very important, because as Neichute have said, he is our ambassador. He is the kingpin between the state and the center. And he should link with the departments concerned, with the state. I think it's very important for him to be very active and visiting all the ministry and get our state departments connected with the ministry. His job, 365 days staying in Delhi, is not only about MP left fund. It is about how to let our people reach out to the central ministries. I think this is the role, and he can have consultation, and he can also find out the program policies, the projects that are available in the departments, and that also can be briefed to the concerned departments in the state. I think that kind of activeness, active role is missing.
Exactly. So you mean to say that it is not necessarily the age, but
Yeah.
it is the individual's sense of sacrifice, sense of responsibility, and sense of concern for the people that is required. That is what you mean to say.
Age factor, as far as, to my opinion, it is only the dedication and sincerity of the person should be priority that we should look at. But now, as far as the performance of the MPs representing our Nagaland state so far is concerned, somehow Nagas are unfortunate. We have observed so far, when the government is headed by UPA in the center, we send a representative from NTA representative. So somehow, for past many years, Chatara Bia said type no. Center to Yati Olda. Maybe because of that, we have Nagas had not had the opportunity to be at least Union Minister of State. I have heard during Dr. S.C. Chamber's time, that was long time, which I also don't know. Since he was a Union Minister in the rank of State Minister. But till then, we have missed the opportunity to represent as a minister in the cabinet. So somehow, maybe because of that thing, our MPs becomes a mere member, so his performance could not be much. That must be the reason why Nagas don't care much about this Lok Sabha election. That's my personal observation.
Yeah, about the age. Age can be relative. For instance, like in Japan, they are supposed to be 10 years younger to their peers around the world. So a 50-year-old Japan is actually like 40-year-old in other parts of the world. And in other parts of the world, somebody who is 40 years old, for example, like in Europe, US, they are treated as very matured elderly. Whereas in Nagaland, in 1980s, people who were in the 30s or late 20s were considered leaders. But then, as of now, those leaders who captured political leadership somehow thinks that people who even are 50 years of age are not supposed to be leaders. So the understanding of leadership in Nagaland is very relative. What I have seen is that one of the biggest flaws in Indian democracy is somebody can be an elected member even for 50 years or 60 years. So we have had experiences where politicians can't hear, couldn't see, they're lying in bed, but still they are elected members. This is very sad. BJP has come out with a strategy that 75 years of age will not be given the ticket. I think this is a positive move.
Yes.
I'm told that they have new faces of more than 160 people for this coming Lok Sabha. That's a good initiative. Maybe perhaps NDPP, Congress, NPF, or NPP would also like to say that, well, if you have stood for election for more than 3 terms, or 4 terms, which is 20 years, our party will not give seat to those people again. Then it might open new floodgates for the new leadership to be trimmed, to be nurtured. But as of now, we are in dire shortage of young visionary leaders all over India because of our understanding of who is elderly, who is young, and also because somebody wants to cling on to the chair that he has made.
Yeah, exactly. So ultimately, it is not age alone, since it is relative to other factors. So ultimately, it is the energy. We do not, and the vision. So we do not know whether the young man will be having the vision and the energy, or the elderly person who may be, because of experience again, he may be gifted more with the vision and the energy. So it all depends on, in fact, the individual. We cannot cut off entirely by the age alone.
Yes.
So I think with this, we'll try to wind up. Dear viewers, a few weeks of electioneering and just 10 hours voting, and a future is sealed that makes us or breaks us for years to come, individually, socially, and as a state and nation. The question is, when shall we become responsible, conscious voters? It is up to you, viewers, to take elections seriously or not. The decision is yours. At the end of the day, if we don't take elections seriously, we will continue to suffer economically, socially, and day-to-day life. The challenge before us is to become reasoning people and stop being trampled upon by our own vices and short-term needs. If we want a prosperous life, then the need is to stop looking at candidates from the size of their pockets, but on their honesty and vision. Stop selling your votes, because in doing so, you sell your dignity, and a life without dignity is not worth to be called living. Life is short. Let us put values and principles of life ahead of demeaning temporary gratifications for dignified existence. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.